In a previous video, I showed you all the ways that you can actually access content going through the school library, the Nearpod library, or the vocabulary video pack. Now, what I can also show you is, let's say, for example, instead of going through all these resources because you would rather just type in something and make it easier for you, let's say I'm an English teacher and I want to work on personification. Personification. So here I typed it into the search bar and I have all of these things that will pop up. Could be videos. These two are videos. I know because it has the play button. This one's an entire lesson. If I hover over it, it says in 25 to 30 minutes, Nearpod featuring vocabulary topic spark. Students are introduced to personification through a hip hop and Nearpod signature interactive features. Now, there are also other things that I can do, like an assessment. This will just be basically a little test that they could take. Here's another video. Here's another Nearpod lesson that they've made. So all of these things can be used. Whether or not we are going to use them would be determined by two things. First and foremost, I would definitely change it depending on our subject. So let's say I'm a fourth grade teacher, so I'm going to click fourth grade. That already narrows my choices down a lot. So I wouldn't include things that would be at a higher level than my students, like ninth grade or 12th grade. So here I have these four options. These two are videos and these two are lessons. So I can actually go through this one and preview it to see if it is what I want to do. So here at the bottom, you have all these different slides that you can kind of get an idea about what this is. So here they would have matching. So I really want some cake. The wind was howling, her eyelashes sighed, and the waved goodnight. So all of these things, they would kind of match the personification to what it is. Here they also have a little field trip. When you click on it, the students would be able to navigate through the scene and maybe think of like some objects in this that they could say is personification based on maybe the trees or the water, as long as they can think of ideas that what they could personify based on the objects that are in here. They could also draw. This particular slideshow has 17 slides, so it'll be a mix of activities as well as different collaboration boards, consider an object or animal or utensil. All of these things seem like really good ideas. So I can actually add this to my lessons. So I'm going to go back into my Nearpod and go to my lessons. Here is my personification. So I could do live participation and go with it through the class, or I could do student paced. The thing with student paced, though, is if you have students that are struggling graders, you really want to pay attention to the questions that are being asked. And I'll show you later how students would be able to access that if they were not strong graders. So here, I'm going to edit a downloaded lesson. So either I can keep a copy of the original lesson or duplicate the lesson before editing it. So I'm actually just going to duplicate the lesson so I can have the original one in case I feel like I want to go back to what it originally looked like. So let's say, for example, I want to use this perhaps just in a short amount of time and not the 25 to 30 minutes that it was already done. So what I can do is perhaps just get rid of some slides that I don't need. So let's say instead of this instructional slide, I can just delete it altogether and the students will not have to see it. I won't have to show it to the students. But I do want to keep full vocabulary and I do want to keep the matching pairs. Maybe afterwards I don't want them to draw it because I feel like that could take a lot of time, so I just delete that slide. But they still have the field trip. They still have the ability to tell me an example of personification after looking at that. On the poll, how confident are you in your ability to use personification in your writing? I personally like keeping that because I like the students to be able to reflect on their understanding and really get that metacognitive that they need to understand whether or not they are doing good in this certain topic. If you wanted to, honestly, you could also delete the thank you and the credit sources because it's already made somewhere. And if you just don't want the students to see that slide and ask, what do I do here? You really don't have to do anything other than look at it. So now it's a few activities shorter. So I could save and exit because I want it to be shorter. But let's say, for example, I wanted to add something new. So let's say in between the quiz, I want them to do something a little bit fun. So I will add something new. So I could go to recent and most popular, create interactive quizzes and games and discussions. So since I said I wanted them to do something fun, maybe I'll go to quizzes and games. So here, they could do another memory test. They can do matching pairs. They can do drag and drop. There's also this little activity that says time to climb. So I could add this. It's basically like a little game that they can do in between. Also, as a review, we can see if there's something for personification, but there may not be. So nothing for personification, but let's say last time we were in class, we were going over something that's kind of related to personification, but it's not exactly that. So just as a little review before they do anything else. Maybe perhaps if we are going to use this and there isn't one personification, I can put this at the beginning as like a refresher of the past topic and kind of discuss how this topic is now related to the idea of personification. I don't know what would show up though. So let's see. Reading, English language charts. Perhaps it would be easier just for us to filter this. Let's see, 4th grade again. And apply that and see what pops up. Maybe we need to go over valid diagraphs. Why not? And see how that could possibly connect to personification. And if we're looking through all of these and we honestly don't even have anything that matches what we are doing currently, we don't have to do this activity, or we could also create one ourselves. So let's say, for example, our do now is that we want to go over diagraphs just as a review. So I can save this for the example, saving it to show you how to add different stuff. I don't want this to be at the end now. I actually want this to be near the beginning so we can review this. So I may put this right here. So the first slide that they would see is that we're going to be working over personification. Say we're going to get started with a little time to climb activity to review our diagraphs before we get started with the topic that we're going on today. And maybe we will talk as a class how diagraphs could be connected to personification and see what the students come up with. So now I could save and exit, or if I wanted anything else, I could definitely add it. So let's say I want to add a Nearpod 3D. This would actually just be a interactive way for them to see different objects. So let's see if I can add something. Let's say I want the students to do personification with, maybe the sun. Why not? We'll try the sun. So now, here's my Nearpod 3D. We already talked about the field trip and the collaboration there. So then whole group, maybe we can talk about the sun and how we would be able to see some sort of personification in the sun. So here's a student preview of what would look like. Here is the sun. They're able to move it around. The sun isn't too different on any side, but it is a fun little activity for the students to just play around with and see the sun as a 3D object. So I highly suggest if you want to add little things that are more interactive in your slides or in your Nearpod, you just have to go to add new and explore all of these things. So I can go into more detail about what each of these could be in a different video. I just don't want this one to get too long for us. So I'm going to go ahead and save and exit Might take a while for it to save. Interesting. Either way, it is going to save, but let me see. So as the video is saving, it would show up right here. So here we have personification as the one that was already made for me. Personification 1 is actually the one that I just made. So if I wanted to, I could rename this so I am able to find it easier, or I just know that personification 1 is the one that I made versus Nearpod. So here you can even say that it says my name instead of Nearpod featuring vocabulary. And it also says the date that I had it. So this is another way for you to get your information. I could also drag it to a folder if I don't want my stuff to get lost. I could also continue to edit it. Maybe after the first class that I had, I realized the video was too long or anything that I want to do to fix it, I could still go back and edit it. Also, you can always pick live participation or student paced, however it works for you in your classroom. Just keep that in mind as you are creating these subjects as to whether or not you are going to want it to be student paced and if you are going to want it to be whole group, so you can decide which different activities you want to do with your class.